Hi everybody, thank you for coming. And I hope everyone got their flower seeds. That's part of our pollinator pit stop program designed to blanket West Vincent with flowers to benefit people and butterflies and birds and everyone, all pollinators. Before you leave, I just want to make sure everyone knows about our Healthy Yard Recognition Program. We have adorable signs that we give out if you get 15 points on our Healthy Yard quiz. And it's not too hard to get 15 points. And if you would like to do even better than 15 points, if you want to improve your score, the EAC is happy to come out and give you tips and hints on how to take even better care of your yard. And that brings, oh, also we just started a new book club. We're going to have a meeting, our first book club meeting next in February 22nd. So you should get your book now. February 12th. Today's, right. And if you get your book now, you'll be ready. We're starting with Doug Calamy's Nature's Best Hope, which we can read all together. And we're going to have lots of interesting and fun activities all year long. I heard last year that West Vincent had 3 Pennsylvania natural heritage areas. And I've been in the conservation world for a long time. I never heard of that and didn't know what it meant. And we are very lucky tonight that Jeffrey Wagner, the director of the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program, came here all the way from Pittsburgh to explain the program and let us know what it means. So, with no more ado, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Let's see how effective. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll leave the mic sort of at a distance. If anybody has problems hearing, let me know. It's not a big screen, but everybody can see it okay. We're kind of scattered around, so feel free to move forward if you want to see it better. I've got some kind of nice pictures. It's a whole mix of stuff I've put together here. All right, so I'm going to tell you about the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. For those of you who knows about the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program, who's heard of the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage? A few people, yeah. Well, that's kind of good, because then I can tell you anything and you'll believe it. So, okay, I'm going to tell you about the program, and then I'll tell you about county natural heritage inventories, and then I'll dig down a little bit, tell you about natural heritage areas, which are the areas that we designate, and show you some pictures, and then we can talk and answer questions. I brought some annual reports from the program. They're up here. Welcome. I grabbed a handful. If you take them, share them, whatever, that you're welcome to them. And that's it. So I'll just get started with talking about the program. Okay, the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program is a heritage program. And in Pennsylvania, it's a partnership between 4 partners. So it's DCNR, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, where I work, the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission, and the Pennsylvania Game Commission. So we're the partners in the program, and we're all a member of a kind of umbrella organization called NatureServe. NatureServe is actually international, but all of the states, 50 states, and the provinces in Canada and a number of Latin American countries are members of NatureServe. And we all collect this information I'll tell you about in kind of the same way. So it can all get rolled up together. NatureServe manages that information so they can provide the information at a federal level, countrywide or regional. But for us, we provide it at the state level, essentially. We share information with other states, but we're focused on the state. So that's the program. We're a partnership. We're a member of this bigger effort. And every state has a heritage program. They can be called different things in different states, like Michigan's the Michigan Natural Features Inventory. I think Florida's is Florida Natural Areas Inventory. So it's different in different states, but essentially it's a natural heritage program. Oh, and by the way, Pennsylvania is only one of 11 programs that isn't in state government, or exclusively in state government. So it was different in the past, and we'll see how much I get into the past. So it's pretty simple in a nutshell. We inventory, compile, maintain this information about important ecological resources, in other words, biodiversity in the state. And we focus really on the rarer biodiversity, plants, animals, and communities. Not that we don't care about deer and bear and everything else, but we're not tracking that. It's not needed. We don't have to do that. And this slide's just to try to show you, we've collected, it started in 1982, the program started in 1982, we've been collecting information. Now we have over 30,000 records. And that map is small, so it looks like every square inch has something. That's not, if you blew that up, you'd see there's gaps and everything, but you put 30,000 dots on a map and it looks pretty dense. So, I mean, it's just a lot of stats for the programs, but, it's a lot of work for all these years. So we just celebrated our 40th anniversary, 2022. So we do kind of a lot of different things. I mean, the core of what we do is collect and manage this information and provide the information. That's kind of the core. But to do that and to collect the information, we do a lot of stuff. So we inventory, direct inventory work. We do a lot of interpretation through reports and through tools that we put together. We do work with various entities to develop management plans. We do a lot of mapping. Maps are like really essential to what we do. Conservation planning, environmental review, I'll talk about that. People may be somewhat familiar with that. And we work with a lot of consultants when they're doing various plans and they need kind of the ecological interpretation of something. So anyway, we do a lot of different things, all in the service of figuring out what we've got and where it is. And we'll be figuring that out forever because we're not going to really get to the end of that. And we're really fortunate in Pennsylvania. We have a big program. Now we have about 45 people. When I started, a long time ago, there were 5 of us. Now there's 45 of us. So it's grown a lot, and we have a lot of expertise in all those different fields. And we just hired the first mycologist, person who studies fungi, ever. The No Heritage Program has ever had a mycologist before, so we got one. So that's going to be really exciting. We're a member of the Pennsylvania Biological Survey, if you're familiar with that. It's a volunteer organization made up of academics and agency people and nonprofits like us. And the whole idea is to share all the information about the flora and fauna of Pennsylvania. So we're a member and a really active member of PABS. And then we work with a lot of different people. I just threw down a couple of things there. We work with museums a lot because even though we have a lot of expertise, when it comes to really intricate things, like a lot of the invert taxonomy, museums like Carnegie Museum of Natural History, these guys, they spent their life studying like one group of insects. So you can't, you got to go to them if you want to get it right down to the last species. So we work a lot with those people. So natural heritage inventories. We started these things back in 1989, is people will say, started. The first county was Lancaster County and Center County. Those were the first 2 counties. So 67 counties in Pennsylvania, and we finished inventories, I guess, last one was in 2010. I think we finished the last county. And then we immediately kind of started updating them. And over the years, we we've done it in a lot of different ways, which I'll tell you about. But, so these inventories focus on a county. They're usually 2 years of focus, so 2 field seasons and the time it takes to compile and write up the data. So 2-year projects, and it's really to identify important ecological areas in the county and provide that information to both the state for environmental review purposes, to the county for planning purposes, to nonprofits, like some people who are involved in nonprofits here for their own conservation purposes, land acquisition, easements, whatever. And there's an outreach function too. This, I might show this going. This was the update of the Chester County Inventory, 2015, which is actually pretty recent. You can see it's like a pretty big thing, right? We don't quite do this anymore. I'll tell you about that. But anyway, here it is. If you haven't seen it, you're welcome to browse it. It is online. I'll tell you about that too. So we started these things and ramped up, and eventually we had, I think at one point, 9 people dedicated to just going to all these counties around the state and collecting the information and writing these reports. And these reports, I mean, we would print however many municipalities there were in the county, however many groups who wanted it. So it's a lot of effort and a lot of paper and a lot of reports. And unfortunately, that's a snapshot. But every year it was done, it's a snapshot. But it's not that way anymore. At one point in time, it was like, here's my inventory 2010. There it is. There's nothing else to back that up with. It was, you know, at that point. Now it's a different world, which I'll tell you about. So this is a map of all the natural heritage areas in the state. There are about 4,000 of them now. Again, the county inventories were real pivotal in identifying these areas. Not exclusively. I mean, it's not like we haven't done other work or prior to the county inventories, like we didn't do any work. We did. But these are the representations of those rare plants, animals, or communities. And drawing the natural heritage area, there's a lot of details to that, which I'm not going to go into, but you'll see a little bit more here. There's an example. This is what, Beaver County. That's just a map that's produced. It shows the areas, labels it. There's a lot of different legends to it. And there's Chester County right there, 2015. That's what the overview map looks like. It's pretty complex, but again, you can zero in more specifically. And you do that through now, our website's PNHP. If you just Google PNHP DCNR, it'll come up. And it's called the Pennsylvania Conservation Explorer. How many people have ever used it or gotten on it? A couple? Okay, good. You browsed? Do you like it? Okay,
really
good.
well
Good.
done.
So that really holds all our information. And one of the kind of key parts of that is this interactive map. And this interactive map has all the natural heritage areas on it. You know, you can zoom in and see zoom in as close as you want and see, you know, West Vincent Township, or, you know, a region or whatever. You get to see the areas. And well, that's kind of the title page. So that's sort of the planning function of it. This map that you get to see. Just some stats on it. But if you're doing environmental review, in other words, let's say you're a consultant or a municipality, and you're going to put in a housing development, you're going to build a shopping center, you're going to put in a road, whatever it might be, you're required by the DEP, where you would get a permit to do the development, to do a number of different things. And one of those is to consult this website, and people refer to it as PNDI, Pennsylvania Natural Diversity Inventory. And you can go in, and at the point that you're going to submit a project, there is a fee. It's only $40 now. If you're a consultant building a, $400 million housing development, $40 is kind of not very much. Helps support the program. But you pay the fee, and then you get this closer look at the area. And this is an example that shows you, pretty detailed information about what it is that if you're in a specific area, what you're looking at, what the creature is or the plant is, and who to contact. Or it might just tell you, take these conservation measures, and then you print out the report and you submit that to DEP, and that goes in the whole package. So DEP might require historic review, wetlands review, there's a bunch of stuff. This is just one piece of that permitting process. So that's all through that website, the Pennsylvania Conservation Explorer. Everything is on there now. And the inventories now are essentially live on there. So when you go in and you see these natural heritage areas, that is up-to-date information we've got. So it's not a snapshot anymore from 2015 or 2010. It's whatever the most recent information is that we have. And we've revised this actually has new mapping standards, 2015. But if you go back to some of the earlier reports, we've revised how we map those things. So it's really a different, so what you see online now with the interactive map can be really different from what you see in one of the written reports. And more information's been added. There might be new species, or some species might have been delisted, so they disappear. So the point is, go on the website. That's the most recent information that you've got. I mean, it's great to look at these. These are great reports. I'm not saying don't look at them, but just take that with a grain of salt. And here, like if you zero in there, that's essentially West Vincent Township, and those are natural heritage areas that are relevant to you guys. And you can, go home tonight and look at them and get information about them. I did a presentation in March for the Big Woods people. I don't know if anybody saw that, or did you see it, Donna? Yeah. I thought, oh yeah, somebody saw it, and then, yeah. Well, anyway, so I did a presentation for them, and so I cut out the Big Woods, and I showed the areas there, and I kind of zeroed in on some of that. So you can see, and if you look at the big maps of Pennsylvania, that Big Woods really sticks out in the east, because there's nothing of that size of, kind of contiguous habitats. And you've got all that public land. You've got Hopewell, and you've got French Creek State Park, you've got the game lands, you've got NLT property. So it's a really crazy area, but you're right there at the edge of that, right down in the lower right-hand corner there. And so if you go in to the report, if you pick that report up, or online you can get to the PDF of the site. It'll look something like this. Talks about the area, it shows you all the things that are there, and there may be some pictures, and then there's a map that shows you here's what the area is delineated, this is what it looks like. Again, here's Horseshoe Trail, NHA, which is part of West Vincent Township. There it is, it's delineated on aerial photo. And it'll talk about the area, any threats to it, conservation recommendations. The threats are generally, it could be like threatened by development for some reason, but it's usually more kind of biological threats like changes in hydrology, invasive species, disease, whatever it might be. And then conservation recommendations. So you can get some understanding of what the area is, what it is, why it's important, and what you might do to conserve it. I think I had them all on here. Birch Run Wetlands, or Woods, Birch Run Woods, that's another one here in West Vincent Township. Birch Run Woods, Beaver Hill Woods, we were just talking about that before. And then, like I said, we try to, if you get on the website, there's a lot of information, but we try to highlight the species that are found there, show you the detail of the species so you can kind of appreciate what it is. And so you can put kind of a face with the name, right? So you see the names in there and you can kind of figure out what you've got. And, you know, we look at communities too, so it's not just species, but where they live, what the habitat, the important habitats that these species live in. And we do a lot of, we try to do as much field work as we can. I mean, we're talking about Ann Rhodes, Tim Block from Morris Arboretum. There's a lot of people who give us information, who are experts in their own right. And they'll go out and collect information and give it to us. And all the information we get, we quality control it. So if it's coming from an expert like Ann Rhodes, we're probably not going to question it very much, but there's a lot, especially these days with citizen science, there's a lot of information out there that we have to sort through. So it might take us 4 hours to sort through 40 records, and out of those records we get one that we consider good enough to put in. Because any information we put in, it has to be confirmed. It really is what it is, and it's where you said it was. I mean, it doesn't do a lot of good to know there's a species, but it was so badly mapped that you can't really accurately put it on the map. It doesn't really do anybody any good. So we're out in a lot of different habitats, terrestrial, aquatic, lakes, rivers, streams. We do a lot of freshwater mussel work. We've done a lot. There's still more to do, but we've done that. We do a lot of work in wetlands, and we even do work in caves and rock habitats for things like wood rat, and green salamander, which is a species just down in the kind of Fayette County area in the state southwestern. And so we go and do whatever we have to do to try to figure out where things are living. And they're often unique habitats, because unique habitats are often the places where you find unique species because of the conditions. Not exclusively, but, you know, and it's also, they tend to be less disturbed areas. Like Lower Susquehanna, some of the floodplains there, really interesting places. Sometimes we get involved with this vernal pool restoration, we'll get involved there. Again, mostly from an expertise point of view. In some cases, it's like, well, who's going to plant these restoration plants? Well, I guess we will, right? But typically, we provide the expertise and not the labor. Some more unique habitats. I think this is at Presque Isle up in Erie County. Again, a lot of riverine work. And we work a lot with state parks too. So French Creek State Park's one that we haven't inventoried, well, we have maybe inventoried all the state parks, but we haven't done this kind of very focused kind of inventory and vegetation mapping. Not to all the state parks, but French Creek was one that we did do. And there's a number that we've done. In fact, which one is this? Oh, this is a high pile down in Fayette County. So we map the vegetation. It helps the state park figure out what the compartments are and what, you know, when they're doing management, what they need to do. All right, and just some leftover slides from the Big Woods thing, just showing from the French and Pickering Creek Conservation Trust, some of the, we did some work with them.
Yes.
You were there, I think, when we were doing that. Just wanted some more information of the, you know, on their parcels and sort of an updated inventory. So we did that. We did the vegetation mapping for them. Species list, you know, whatever we've talked about, threats to the area. And anyway, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's that's the work of the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. Like I said, I work at Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, and you know, that's a big land trust, but we own Falling Water, if you've ever done Falling Water. We have a watershed program. We do a lot of watershed repair and restoration. We have a Gardens and Green Spaces program, so if you ever out kind of in western PA, well, there is a garden in Harrisburg. We have these public gardens, if you've ever seen those. And we're land trust too, so I think, I don't know what we're up to now, 250,000 acres or something that we've conserved over the years. The Conservancy started in 1932 as the Pittsburgh Parks and Playground Foundation. So it's come kind of interesting and long way to kind of get where it is now. And so we work with Natural Lands and Heritage Conservancy and Central Pennsylvania Conservancy and Clearwater Conservancy and all the land trusts. We know each other and we try to collaborate on a lot of things. And yeah, so, and like I said, here's the inventory. You're welcome to take a look at it, but it is online. You can go on and you can see the PDF of this. Like every page is there. And you can even reference it to the map if you have questions about the areas. Like, has this changed? Is it still there? But for Chester County, it's not going to be much different. It's going to look, because at 2015, anything that's less than 10 years old, pretty current, but things do change even within that short context. Yes?
I'm not clear on how you set the borders of an area. What sets the borders? What rules are used?
Yeah, well, it's usually habitat based.
Is it one species like the box turtle and you draw, and you group them together? How do you make a big one and a little one?
I know. So for instance, if you have a wetland species, right? Generally, the wetland would be considered the habitat, unless, for instance, if you had this big wetland and one little part of that wetland was a fen, so it had all this calcareous water coming in, we might delineate a section of that wetland based on the chemistry of that area, or the entire wetland. Wetlands are easy because they're kind of self-delineated. Other things like how do you delineate habitat for a dragonfly? The dragonflies, they live in the water, they spend most of their life in the water and they come out as adults and they range pretty far. So we rely on research to say here's how far dragonflies will move and breed and forage. And then you have things like amphibians that use vernal pools. Well, there's research that says they will move so many meters away from the pool to use the woodland habitat for living, and then they come to the pool to breed. So we'll delineate the area based on that kind of maximum area that they would use as habitat. So it's species by species. Every species is going to be different.
Birds would be very difficult.
Birds are usually confined to nesting areas.
Okay.
So you know the nesting site, and there's just a kind of standard distance that you're going to identify. But, for instance, if you had a grassland nesting bird, again, pretty easily delineated. They're not going to be living in the forest, they're going to be in the grassland. So you can delineate that. But for a woodland, passerine bird, it's going to be a nesting, confirmed nesting, and a certain distance around. So it's different by species, yes.
Can you speak a little more about the 3 natural heritage areas that are in West Vincent Township?
Yeah.
And what the species are that have caused those areas to be mapped?
Well, I'll do my best here. Let me see if I can go back to that area. I'm not going to know everything about these areas because A, I don't, and B, okay, so you probably can't see this very well, but there's a wild kidney bean. This is from the Birch Run Woods Natural Heritage Area. So there's a plant, and then there's 2 sensitive species. which aren't named at the request of the jurisdictional agency. So in this case, be the Fish and Boat Commission. And generally in Chester County, I think you guys all know, you have bog turtles here. Bog turtles are federally endangered species, right? So we cannot reveal locations of bog turtles, but you may know where bog turtles are, right? And like natural lands, they have properties that have bog turtles. But you can often, I mean, if you're active locally, you're probably going to know that. You talk to your local naturalist. So that's an example. But as far as the conservation recommendations and everything in the areas themselves, they're drawn to accommodate the species, even though the inventory doesn't list what the species is. But that's going to be generally true of reptiles and amphibians particularly. There's a few plants, a few orchids that aren't listed. That's sort of rare. And then some birds and mammals.
If I can just back up, the
Yes.
three areas are the Birch Run Wetlands,
Yes,
Horseshoe Trail,
right.
and the Beaver Hill Woods,
Right.
correct? So they're not defined strictly by any endangered species. That, like, what, I'm just
Mhm.
still trying to figure out what has made those areas
Oh,
special.
okay. Well, if you get on the website so you can see, we have a list of all the species that we track and that have some status, meaning they're rare, threatened, or endangered.
Okay.
And you can have the federal level and you can have the state level. There aren't that many federal things that we deal with. There's freshwater mussels, there's a few amphibians, and not too much else. A few plants. We only have a couple plants. Most of the listings are state. So there's state rare, threatened, or endangered. So those are the things that we track, and those are the things that these areas are drawn to accommodate.
Okay.
You might have an area with, and you can look through the report, you might have a list that long of rare things that are there, or you just might have one. It all depends on the area. You know, if it's a wetland, you might have 5 plants and 2 animals, all within the habitat. So we treat that as one area.
And these areas are, some of it is maybe public land or held in trust, but a lot of it is private property.
It can be public or private.
Right. If it's private property, the designation of a natural heritage area doesn't necessarily carry with it any restrictions, right?
These are just designations, these
Right.
don't. But that's why you can look at it and get information about it. If you're going to do something there that requires a permit, then you're going to go through the process, you're going to go on, and then you're going to see, oh, I've got a bog turtle. Oh, I've got a rare sedge. Oh, I've got whatever it is. And then you follow the you follow the recommendations of who to talk to, who to consult with.
But you said not everything's listed on the site, like you don't show where the bog turtles are.
Well, at this level.
Okay.
So if you're as curious because like you just want to know, yeah, you can look here, and then if you want to know more, you can actually call us, or you can talk to your local land trust or naturalist. They're probably going to know if something's not listed. But if you're going to subdivide your property and build something, you're going to have to get a permit. And when you do that, you're going to get on this site, and you're going to pay your $40, and then you're going to see all the information. So it just depends what you're going to do. And by the way, for plants, even though there's recommendations, plants are the property of the landowner. Animals are the property of the states. There's a distinction there. Yes.
So, do you have any rulings for the vernal pools? Do you have any suggestions or rulings for them? Because oftentimes they get destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, we've been working with vernal pools for a long time, and our most recent work has been working with landowners to kind of, bring them up to speed, tell them why they're important, and then, work with them to try to do conservation work there. And some of that, in a few cases, means the landowners contacted their local conservancy, and maybe the conservancy puts an easement on there at the request of the landowner. So there's all kinds of arrangements, but yeah, that's the problem, because vernal pools are missed, and yeah.
I don't think that many people understand them, number one. And number two, how are they restorable? If somebody's piped a vernal area, can it be restored if you can get those pipes out?
Yeah, I mean, we've done in recent years vernal pool restoration. We haven't had that particular, like drainage ditches, but we have had areas where somebody's like, provided a drainage, put a channel in. And there are places too, even on public land, where off-road vehicles go just cut right through them intentionally because it's fun to go
Splash.
through the water. So there's all sorts of problems like that, and we try to just work with as many people as we can to tell them, hey, why is it important, and what can you do to help conserve them.
So how does this information filter down to our level in the township? When development is coming along, is this the only avenue that people have to use?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the only avenue, but, for county point of view, it's worth consulting the inventory, again, the online map, when you're considering land use changes, whatever it might be, whether it's an updated zoning map or anything you're going to do, you might as well be aware of the resources you have. And that's not just the ecological resources, you might do the historic resources, cultural resources, whatever. It's good to know that when making, educated, informed decisions about things. So the county should know, from a municipal point of view, same deal. You can know about the areas that you've got, at least that we've delineated. Like I said, there are other cultural, historic places that you also might want to know about. And then within that context, working to either work with the landowners, work with agencies, whoever owns the land, you could work with them proactively, as opposed to waiting until there's going to be a shopping center going in, and then, at the point where the permits are in place and everything, it's pretty hard to do anything at that point. Yes.
Is there a economic benefit from the state or the county to have more of these areas in your municipality? Does anybody recognize that as something that is a benefit towards to prevent growth or protection or anything?
Well, I mean, aside from, for this specifically, the rare plants and animals and communities, sure, I'm sure there's water quality issues depending on what kind of habitat it is. Green space, part of green space, it's just like the big woods I mentioned. I mean, you have places like that. It's, huge from a lot of different points of view to have that. I'm sure that's considered a resource. You're a hunter, you've got game lands, you're a state park user, there's state parks, you like historic sites, it's Hopewell Village. So it seems pretty obvious that it's a benefit to have areas like that. And even if it's on private land, I think that it's just part of kind of green space conservation if you're going to take steps to conserve it. And if you start looking at it more holistically, you can figure out how do these things fit together. So yeah, I think there's a lot of benefit. Let's put it this way, I don't know what the drawbacks are. I mean, if the value is, do I want this green space or do I want a shopping center? You know, you have to answer that question. If you want the shopping center, well then you've given away the benefits of that green space.
And another question, what does a private landowner do? Who do they appeal to if they find something that they think is unique or different? Where do they start? Who do they start with?
Well, I mean, again, if you've got some local contacts, I mean, you've got quite a few experts in the county. I mean, Donna, you must know lots of people, right? So I'd start there. And, you know, you're always welcome to contact us. You know, we'll give you as much information as we can. Now, we don't have the ability to just like go out and check out every area, but, you know, if it's something significant, yeah, I mean, we'll put it on the list for sure. But yeah, I'd start locally and build up those contacts, because you definitely have a lot of people who could help a lot figure out something if it's unique. So other thoughts? Yeah.
You mentioned citizen scientists data, like I know there's iNaturalist and eBird. What kind of resources do you look at? Like you said, like 1 out of 40 years.
Well, we'll look, those are two sites where we'll comb through the records and get, I guess, the research grade records generally we'll look at. And then within that context, what is it? How well is it mapped? Do we know the person? Do we know what their expertise is? So it's just combing through all that. Takes a long time, but kind of worth it, you know. Let's put it this way. You could have somebody drive out here and look for something, or you could look at 40 records and get something. You know, it's kind of a trade-off, but yeah, it's been pretty valuable.
What other apps do you look at besides those two that I know?
I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, we look at these days, for good or for bad, we're also tracking invasive species too. So we're looking at some of those sites too. Well, the whole idea is invasive species are such a threat. They're such a threat that there's we manage a program called IMAP Invasives. It's an online database. And other states have it too. And the idea is populate this database. And then you can do things like look at the natural heritage areas and overlay it with invasive species information to kind of understand what it is and contextually what it is. So you might see, you know, 20 counties in eastern PA with the species, and they're not in western PA yet, so people in Butler County or wherever could say, oh, this is a species that we want to watch for, and if we find it, we're going to do our best to eradicate it before it gets started. So anyway, that's kind of a sidebar, but yeah, we're tracking invasive species too.
Do you track diseases like beech tree blight?
We don't. Department of Ag really does that, and Bureau of Forestry to some extent. Same deal. I mean, if you were noticing something, you could contact them and just tell them about it, and it might be significant. I mean, it's just like with spotted lanternfly. I mean, that was crazy. Because it takes them a long time too to figure. Like we found it in Harrisburg, and let Department of Ag know, but it was a couple years before Dauphin County went into quarantine, because they have to go out and they have to find it, and they have to confirm it, and they have to confirm that it's not just, you know, something that's brought in, but it has to be more widespread. So, but anyway, it's worth, if you see something, yeah, contact them and say, hey, you know, there's this weird thing happening to my beech trees, which was what the first calls were for that. It's like, there's something weird going on here. Nobody knew what it was, but then people figured it out.
Have you done any educational programs? What I mean by that is, I live in the Beaver Hill Natural Heritage Area, and I had no idea. And when I bought the property, I didn't know anything about the environment, and I cleared some woods for pasture, and, no one said there was anything special. We have a few people, like in our township, who are getting goats and letting them go in the woods, which is totally within their rights, but if they knew that in their woods there was a rare orchid, they might not want to let their goats out. That might be their
Right.
choice.
Right.
So is there any place that has an educational system that happens as properties turn over? You can say, look, you're in this, it's a wonderful thing, you have these
Yeah.
plants, animals, whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, there isn't anything ongoing, there's no mechanism or anything like that.
It would
Yeah.
be good to know the exact species,
Well,
so you didn't just say, there's a really special thing here, but you can't tell you what it is.
Well, no, I would consult the inventory, and if you see something of interest or to your property or whatever, yeah, call us. We'll talk to you about it.
So like in West Vincent, we
Yeah.
could start a system like this, and we could have like a database of, a list of addresses, and we could somehow track properties changed hands, we could like send a letter, like, but
Sure,
But
You
that's just one township
That's
in
right.
an enormous state, so.
that's right. I know, I wish, some counties have been really good and really proactive, and some counties haven't. And I know a lot of counties, like Monroe County, I think, they had a bond issuance that they used the money from that to buy natural areas. And they use the inventory a lot to select areas and help them steer in a certain direction.
That was
Isn't
the county?
it- That was a county, Monroe County. So, yeah, so it's just how proactive you can be, whether it's at the township level or at the county level, to just be aware of what you've got and then try to provide that education. Yeah, we don't,
If I understood you correctly,
yeah,
it sounds like if there is land that's purchased for development by a private
okay.
landowner,
Right.
it might not be that the landowner, but like the engineer or the builder is supposed to go into this site.
Right.
Right, and that kind of influences their engineering plans or their
Right,
environmental
Right.
mitigation.
right.
That's the way it's supposed to happen. And it may or may not happen that way all the time, but,
Well,
Yeah.
unless somebody's doing something without getting permits.
right. And
Yeah.
you already confirmed that for the most part, these natural heritage areas don't carry on any hard and fast restrictions. However, if it is a federally endangered species, like the bog turtle, like the long-eared bat, that does carry restrictions. So,
Right.
so if it's one of those state-level species that you said made up most of your natural heritage areas, that doesn't necessarily carry teeth. But if it's one of the federally endangered, it could stop development. Or
No, the state listed species, yeah,
They also can.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's particularly true of animals, like I said, with plants. So if a developer is doing something and there's a rare plant, they're still supposed to follow the guidance. And they follow the guidance, whatever it might be. It could be avoidance, it could be conservation measures, or it could be direct consultation with DC NOAA. They do all that, and once it's done, they have a check on their permit. Yes, consulted, took appropriate conservation measures, that goes on to DEP. And if DEP's call, it's like, okay, you did a good job, good, we'll move on with your permit. So it's really kind of, you count on that process, and you count on DEP to, validate that things were done correctly. But in a lot of cases, it's not going to stop development. Yeah, federal species are really going to kind of mess things up. Some state species will too, but I mean, the whole idea is to preserve the habitat. So it could be just changing the footprint of the project. It's generally not going to stop a project, but it can mitigate.
Preserving the vernal pool or the
Right,
wetland.
exactly, right.
But you have to get there at the right time with the right expert to get it done. That's the problem.
Well, it has to first have to show up. It's got to show up when somebody consults the data. If it's not there, if we haven't collected the information, unless it shows up as a wetland in DEP, because DEP has jurisdiction over wetlands, that's their call if they're going to acquire something. But if there's not a rare species or a community or something that we've recorded and put in a database, it's not going to show up. So.
So you said you were a land trust also. Do you, like if West Vincent Township wants a grant to help preserve land for the township, do you help with that? Or do you,
Well,
how can
WP
this help get money to?
okay. Well, just to be clear, WPC, its function is generally west of the Susquehanna,
Okay,
except for the Heritage Program, which is statewide.
okay.
That being said, yeah, there's other land trust conservancies that, usually land trust and conservancies don't really give out grants,
Right.
but they will work with the landowner to maybe put an easement on the property, or buy a property, or have some arrangement to put some kind of protection on that property. So that's how they can help. There's not really a grant to like restore a vernal pool. There are grant sources that you could get to do things like that. You might work with somebody, you might work with DCNR, you might work with the land trust to get a grant to do those things. But it's generally, land trusts don't usually give grants unless there's some kind of weird mini grant
But we
program.
can use this information to
Oh, yeah.
go for some kind of grants.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And that, if you're going for like a partnership grant, C2P2 from DCNR in particular, and you indicate the ecological value of an area, that's going to be a positive for that application, if you're going to, whatever it is. So, know the information, it's only going to be a positive. It's only going to be positive from that point of view.
Are natural springs part of your data that you collect?
Not springs just because they're springs. If the spring is a community where it has an affiliated rare species, yeah, it'll be, but not springs as a whole. Now, vernal pools, we do have a vernal pools database where we're collecting all the information on vernal pools. So we have that. But again, only a portion of those get to be part of the environmental review, because unless it has amphibian or rare plant or something, but it is in the database, so it can be consulted, so it is important that it's in there. So yeah, if you know vernal pools and you want to send us information, we'll look at it. We may have it already, but yeah. So other questions? I mean, the information, we collect it, we provide it. And we do as much as we can, and we work with people and partners, but, and citizen science, but we can only provide what we can collect and manage. So if we don't get the information, we can't, And even though we've done a heck of a lot, there's a lot to do yet. a lot of places that we have not been.
I think a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that you do this.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming and informing us. It would have been helpful for me
Yeah.
about 10 years ago or so.
Or 20, for me.
Or whatever. You know, anyway, that's why I was asking about vernal pools, because a lot of people just don't understand them. They just think they're a
Right.
pain in the neck. And we'll just get rid of it by sticking a pipe in it.
Right. And they can do it short, yes.
Now, you're identifying 3 areas within our township, but is that not to say that they're just the areas that you've looked at? There might be other areas in our township that would fulfill
Sure. Yeah.
this criteria?
Even in a township, right. I mean, when we do a county inventory, we try to get to as many places in the county as it seems reasonable to get to, and that looks like it's going to be of interest for whatever reason. There's a historic record, or it's a big wetland, or, you know, some reason. But yeah, I mean.
If there's already a conservation easement, if there's conservation easements, is that impacted or no?
Not specifically, but again, when we come into a county, we've always gone to like the local land trust. So if Natural Lands has a conservation easement or whatever, we're going to talk to Natural Lands and say, here's what we're looking for, what you got, and then they'll tell us. So now, we don't track easements, even though there is an easement. There's a public lands database that tries to track all that stuff. And it is useful to know, because sometimes we'll want to go to an area, but we have to get permission from the landowner. And if we know there's a conservation easement on that land, that's really helpful, because we're going to go to the conservation group who holds the easement, and they can talk to the landowner or whatever to get us permission to get on there. And there are properties around the state that we have not got permission to go on. So those are like big question marks.
Have you ever seen townships mark or flag their areas? Kind of like the watersheds are marked, you're entering, you're leaving, nothing that exotic.
Like that.
That's a good idea.
Only if they, well, not so much a
You
town,
haven't seen it, apparently.
not a township, but I mean, like,
Well, the townships would be the only ones that would fund it, probably.
well, like DCNR has a public plant sanctuary program. So you're a landowner, you've got an important resource on your land, and you can work with DCNR, and they will come and designate your property or whatever it is as a rare plant sanctuary. And there'll be a sign, but that's it. I mean, it doesn't really do anything aside from like,
Raises awareness.
yeah, raise awareness, right. And then, of course, if there's an owner, a landowner, a conservation group that, you know, like Natural Lands, I mean, their preserves are well marked, and some of their preserves are part of, or have natural heritage areas as part of them, so. But it's not really like you are entering, you know, this natural heritage area. No, I haven't seen that. Would be interesting.
When was the inventory done in West Vincent?
Well, it was 2015 was the update. The original inventory, does anybody know that? I think it was, I'm gonna say 2005.
Okay. How frequently do you update? Do you update on request?
Well, yes, we do that. We're doing, this year we're gonna start on 4 counties: York, Adams, Franklin, York, Adams, Franklin, and, what am I missing? Cumberland, yeah. And that was at request from the South Mountain Partnership. Otherwise, we just go about it at our own. It used to be back in the day when we first started these things. You had to go to the county, and they had to take it to the supervisors. and then they had to sign a contract, they got money from the state, they would give us some money, so it's a big contractual kind of thing. And in some counties, it's like, we don't want an inventory, so get out of here. But now, we don't need permission from the county to go into an inventory. But we try to coordinate our inventory work with the need. So if you're doing a comprehensive plan update or doing something where it's going to be useful to have an update, yeah, we try to do that. I mean, we just can only do so much. I mean, it took us 30 years to do the counties.
It's a big job.
Well, yeah, now we have 4,000 areas, and now the question is, what do we do? I mean, some of those areas aren't gonna like go out of date. I mean, there are some areas that are remote, and there's a community and some rare plants there. We don't have any reason to think that they're not gonna be there 20 years from now, especially if you look at an aerial photo and you don't see any disturbance. But then you have like nesting locations for birds. And we follow our partners. So Game Commission has jurisdiction for birds and mammals. So we follow their lead. They declare, how long is something considered active and when is it historic? And that's how we treat data. So it varies by species.
Now, we have a section where there's a designated stream coming through, but it's really a wet land, it's a wet area with a couple streams coming through.
Mm.
If we want to do a census, an inventory of that area, would you provide, how would we go about that?
You just did that wetland or that wet area? Well, I mean, we're generally not going to come out.
No,
But how would you do it?
yes, how would I approach that
Again,
situation?
I would try to work with somebody local who, depending on what your focus is, if you want to just do a blanket inventory of like everything, invertebrates in the water, and fish, and amphibians, or you're going to need kind of a wide variety of people. So you could go to local colleges, local land trust organizations, even maybe some of the local offices, even like DEP, you could talk to them and just get some names of people, if you don't have them, who do some of that work. So you might get 3 different people to do, one does fish, and one does this, and one does that. That's kind of how we do it. We'll say, oh, geez, we want to do it, so we better have our malacologists come and look at the mussels, and we want to have an invertebrate zoologist come and look at the dragonfly. It all depends on how you're trying to inventory it, but just a good all-around naturalist would be great if you knew of such people. Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, one time I was fishing in Berks County and came upon a team of students from Drexel that was doing a species analysis, and they found 50 different fish in this stream. So, reaching out to local colleges,
Yeah.
they're always looking for field work, and professors are always trying to augment their curriculum with that kind of stuff.
That is a good
And all you have to do is ask.
Yeah, it's a matter of, I guess the first step is just caring about it. It's like, hey, I'm interested, I care about it, now what? Now where do I go from there? And once you sort of made that step, I think the resources, they'll pop up. I'm pretty confident. So, yeah, but it is something. Just when I asked, who's heard of the Natural Heritage Program and who's dealt with the inventory? Not that many people. So just you come in here, hey, there's some resource here that you can at least start to gather and put your head around, and then go to the next step. And yeah, so our updates, we'll do what we can when we can. Again, Chester County is pretty recent. we still do kind of a lot of work here. So it's not, we don't feel like this is one of those counties that are like, oh my God, we haven't looked at it for 25 years. This feels a lot more current, but, you know, there's a lot of good stuff here. So, yeah, a township, sure. You could do a township inventory. You find a lot of stuff. I mean, whether it's rare or it's just really interesting. I mean, just a nice vernal display of wildflowers. Wow, that's pretty nice. Might not be anything rare, but that's a nice thing to, from an outreach and education point of view. Great.
West Vincent BioBlitz.
That's the way it's big. That's a big one. But yeah, you could do something like that. Yeah. Or do a section.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've done BioBlitzes at like state parks. And so, yeah, like Kings Gap, if people are familiar with Kings Gap. That's pretty big. And so yeah, but it's a great start. That's a good start. Yeah. That's a good way, and that'll bring out the experts, you know, who are willing to volunteer to do that. Yeah, including us. Sometimes we get involved in BioBlitz, especially if somebody lives locally, right? So half of our staff, by the way, are in Pittsburgh, and half of our staff are in Harrisburg. We have a few staff in State College. So we, you know, people sort of, we try to keep people as close as possible, but we kind of work across the state. But if you have a BioBlitz, yeah, there are people who live pretty close by who might come and help. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions? Donna, anything you wanted to?
No, I'm just writing that down so I don't forget. We don't, yeah. No, I just want to thank you so much for coming, and this was very educational, and probably the start of many conversations.
Yeah.
So, very grateful.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of the old days. The old days when we'd go around and have to sell. Hey guys, you're gonna like this inventory, and then there'd always be something. You're gonna tell me what to do with my property.
Right. Yes.
It took a long time to kind of change that dynamic. But yeah, it's great. I mean, it's really great to come someplace where people are interested and you get them started, and then yeah. But take a look at our website. I mean, that's gonna, anything I could possibly tell you is gonna be on the website. All our reports and all the stuff we've done in it, and some of it might be really relevant to where you are or where you're interested. And if you ever have questions, especially if you're looking at an inventory and it's like, yeah, what's this, or what can I do about this? Yeah, you can call. Where do you call, you might ask? I'm trying to think of, the website will probably have a number, but, you know, you'll find the number. It doesn't matter who you call, they'll put you in our direction. I mean, there's enough of us, you're gonna get a hold of somebody. But yeah, you're welcome to call and we can talk you through some stuff, if need be. People do it. And we'll let you know that, you know, next time we're out doing any work out here. But York will be close. It'll be close. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But those 4 counties are next, and then maybe Cambria and Somerset County. And I just got a call from somebody up in Wayne County wanting an update. And it amazes me. It's kind of like, wow, you guys really... So to me, it's those counties that recognize the value of it, and not only that it existed, but they wanted up-to-date information, so that was really good to hear.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.